It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
Well, it's that time for a fresh cup of Joe on this week's cup of coffee, and you might notice this is not Uncle Chris. Uncle Chris is enjoying the sandy beaches of Florida, so fill it in this week, my good friend Jason Vansel from Versailles. And Jason, we're going to be talking some Versailles Tigers, some Versailles history, and all kinds of good stuff around the old town of Versailles. You're pretty familiar with that area.
Yep, I'm born and raised, and that's what I call home. That's where I've worked my whole life, so yep.
This guy was my history teacher in school, and
Long time ago.
We won't date ourselves, but so lots to talk about on this week's cup of coffee. Of course, Chiefs Super Bowl champions. We're going to talk about that. You see the swag behind us. This guy's a pretty big Chiefs fan, so he'll have a lot to talk about that and a whole lot more. But first, President's Day sale right now here at Slumberland at the Lake. To tell us more, my guy, Daryl Cunningham.
Hey everyone, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We still have our President's Day sale going on. We have furniture for every room in the house on sale. I want you to know that we also have furniture for every budget. We have sofas starting at $4.99, accent chairs at $2.99, and recliners at $3.99. Come see us at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
All right, we welcome you back to a cup of coffee, and I'm excited to introduce my good friend Jason Vansel joining us on the show this week. And Jason, it's going to be a good one because we're fresh off the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a good thing for Missouri and all the Chiefs fans out there in the Red Kingdom right there. I was just thinking this morning, man, at one time, I didn't know if I was going to see another Super Bowl. And now we've, been in 3 and 6 years and won 2 of them. So, yeah, it's a good time to be a Chiefs fan.
Kind of spoiled Chiefs Nation, and you kind of see now with the unparalleled level of success since Mahomes took over as starting quarterback, you almost just kind of get used to being there. Do you see Dodge Anderson's post with their little guy, and he's like, I had to wait 25 years for mine. He had to wait 10 months.
Yeah.
It's cool because so many people are so passionate about their football team and really their sports team, but the NFL's a little different. And I'm telling you what, when the Kansas City Chiefs are this relevant, it really is good for the entire state of Missouri.
It's great for the whole state. Yes.
So I got to ask you, being a Chiefs fan, I had so many interest in the game. The Chiefs are my second favorite team. I, of course, picked them to win after my Bills got knocked out. But I got to find out from a true diehard Chiefs fan, what was going through your mind at halftime, down 10, not really sure whether Patty Mahomes was playing that second half?
Well, when I watch Chiefs games, my wife will tell you that I'm not always the most positive. I'm always up and down emotionally. The highest of highs, the lowest of lows. We're going to win, we're going to lose. What's the point? But when you're down by 10, I think that's about what we were down by in Super Bowl 54 at halftime, something like that. And, yeah, it's not a good feeling, but Patrick Mahomes is not the normal cat.
That's what I was worried about, though. What if he didn't come back out?
Now, when he tweaked his ankle and when he kind of slouched down on the bench, I thought, man, he's hurting. He looks like he's hurting more than he did when he originally hurt it.
He looked defeated, like he knew he was done, is what I was afraid of.
But I'm going to tell you, to me, he is going to be defined by that injury. In the game against the Bengals, he ripped off a big run there at the end, The run he had at the end of this game, I mean, you could see him wincing when he's carrying the ball. The dude left it all on the field.
100%.
I mean, there are great quarterbacks, and then there's some. I do believe, the NFL is a league of parity. Mm-hmm. Everybody spends money. Everybody's good. All games are close. There's not a lot of blowouts. But it's guys like him that are just a little bit more special that make 1 or 2 more plays that all that $500 million is what you're actually paying for.
Yeah.
That's what separates him. And once again, he took his team with an injured foot through 2 games, and I don't think they were picked to win either one.
No.
But here we are. He's down at Disneyland on television this morning. So
that's a good point, too, is, it's a game of inches. So if you have a different quarterback who maybe you didn't invest as heavily in, you may not get those 2 extra plays, like the 3rd and 8 conversion in the Bengals game with the personal foul, or that long run that set up the game field goal range. You're right. Those plays don't come from someone else.
That's what the money goes towards, is just a handful. That's what I say. It's crazy. A $500 million quarterback versus a $200 million quarterback is probably about 4 or 5 plays. That's what you're getting.
And
but
big
they're
plays.
huge.
They're
at huge time.
Huge. You know, I talked about it last week. Patty was our hometown hero for the week. And I said what's even more special about what he's done through this first 5 years as starter, 6 years in the league, is he's doing it at a time when this is the most competitive pool of quarterbacks this league has ever seen, yet he still continues to all the national media, all the fans. Okay, Jalen Hurts, nothing taken away. Amazing quarterback, amazing kid.
Amazing
Joe
story.
Burrow,
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. It goes on. And still, at the end of the season, we're always talking about Patrick Mahomes. Only, I can tell you what's going to happen going into next year. People are going to start talking about, all right, I think the Chiefs' time is come and gone. Let's talk about the new wave of quarterbacks again. It's like we did that to Tom Brady for 20 years before we finally learned our lesson.
Yes,
Patrick Mahomes is on the verge of creating his own little streak. Not saying he's going to get 7 Super Bowl rings, but he's going to become the closest ever to rivaling Tom Brady for that GOAT title. And I'm not saying he's going to up-throne him or dethrone him, because no one's going to. But Mahomes is the only one that has a shot.
Nobody's going to play to their 46 either. I mean,
no, ever.
God bless Brady for having that love for the game, but nobody's going to play to their 46 years old again either. It's just not going to happen. Does this young man have a chance to win a lot of Super Bowls in a quicker amount of time? Yeah, without a doubt. I don't get into the who's better than who, the GOAT talk. To me, you can't compare. There's different eras, you know.
Right.
The game changes. Defenses changed back when Joe Montana played. I mean, we used to put out VHS tapes of hits that are all illegal today and would probably be felony assault.
It's true, though. The quarterback's protected now.
It's a different game. I would expect bigger numbers and things like that, because I think they've kind of legislated defense out a little bit in football.
I mean, it is a passing league now.
And for safety, I get it. You know, it is. But there's something. When you see greatness, I think you always look at somebody and you go, there's something different. There's just something different. Josh Allen, Burrow, all those guys. Man, the AFC for sure is loaded. The NFL is loaded with quarterbacks. But it's just every once in a while you see a guy with just a little something different. You can't quite put your finger on it. You just be glad you watch it when you get to see it.
That's what I'm saying is I felt super lucky on baseball. I always was a Cub fan before I gave up baseball. But I felt so lucky growing up during that era of Cardinal baseball when you had Albert and Yachty and you had Renteria and Scott Rowland and Jim Edmonds. And, you know, that was a special era of baseball. I just felt lucky to get to see them so many times in person. And that's what I feel about the Kansas City Chiefs now. Because when you look 100, 150, you're always going to have a few dynasties. You know, the Staubach Cowboys and then the Aikman Cowboys. You know, of course, you had Manning with the Colts, only won there. But then, of course, you had Brady dynasty, no doubt about it. But when you look at this Chiefs run, hosting 5 consecutive AFC championship games, even if this streak ends today, right? I mean, this is a dynasty.
If it ends now, he gets a gold jacket.
Oh, I said that before the Super Bowl.
He gets a gold jacket
He's
now.
a sure first ballot Hall of Famer before this season started, in my opinion.
Exactly. You know, and like you said, you know, just be glad you witnessed it. That game against Josh Allen last year.
Oh, please
You know,
don't.
I
Please
don't care, you know, if you're a
Please
Bills fan,
don't.
Chiefs fan, or if you hate both, you will never see 2 guys get after it like that again. If it is, it'll be long after I'm dead
also
and
say
gone.
you'll probably never see
Be glad you were there.
2 defensive relapses or lapses in. I mean, but that was so special.
You know, that was a
game.
historic game. It'll go down in history. People will be talking about it 50, 60 years from now. You know, yeah, I'm a Chiefs fan. But when I look at the quarterbacks out there in this league right now, I'm just glad I'm here.
Right.
Even if it's watching a Bills game or watching Joe Burrow, you know, to me, I just feel glad that I'm alive right now as a football fan to get to witness this. You know, Tom Brady, you love or hate Brady. Of course, years ago, I didn't like Tom Brady. But, man, over time, you cannot help that this guy's different.
Yeah.
This guy graduated high school 2 years after I did. I can't even tie my shoe.
He's out here rewriting his own record book.
He's out here drinking green shakes and breaking records. And
he's more
whatever.
flexible now than he's ever been. He gets healthier by the year.
Are you kidding me, dude? How do you even get out of bed every day?
I think he's a machine.
Yeah, he's definitely.
That's hilarious.
He's definitely a little bit more
So,
athletic.
look, you got to look at the game as a whole, because in the first half, the Chiefs' time of possession-wise, they were blown out of the water. If it wasn't for Jalen Hurts' costly fumble, you know, it's not like anyone forced that fumble. That was his only mistake of the game, is he just dropped it. Nick Bolton made the play, ran it back. But if it wasn't for that game may have been out of reach into the second half. The Chiefs found a way to score every time they got the football, but still, their defense could not stop the Eagles.
Yeah, you got a lesson in that game about the power of momentum. And you could just feel, it's not that Kansas City was out, but man, momentum was not good. It was not in the Chiefs' favor. Bolton made a big play. We're back in it. But even then, I kept feeling like, man, momentum's just not
there yet.
It's with the Eagles, man. It's with the Eagles. Hurts, awesome. A kid who gets, cut in college, well, not cut, but, replaced.
Crazy.
Cheers on the guy that replaces him, goes and finishes off a good career. Here he is in the NFL, and statistically was better than Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the greatest performances ever.
Just that little it factor was the difference that, I was talking about. But no, man, he's a tremendous player. That's a tremendous team.
And he is such a good guy. That's one thing I've loved to see. You knew, because, when he was at Alabama and in that national championship game, I consider that one of the best coaching decisions of all time, because who does that? Sits your Heisman candidate quarterback at halftime of the national title, brings in the redshirt freshman Tua Tagovailoa saying, all right, we need a spark.
Yes.
Works out, they come all the way back and win, and like you alluded to, Jalen Hurts the whole time is the biggest cheerleader on the sideline.
Yes.
Goes to Oklahoma, wins a Heisman, goes to the NFL, and even once he gets drafted, people still say, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the future for the Eagles. They need to rebuild. They need to go back to the draft. And now look at him. And then after the loss, did you see the post-game press conference?
Yeah.
And some of the humility. And I mean, that's the guy that I love. Mahomes. He's a great guy. I can't love him enough because his brother annoys the hell out of me. But when you look at Jalen Hurts, that's a guy I want my son to be like.
Yes.
I
feel like in that Alabama game, that national title game, that was a pivotal moment in that man's life.
100%.
He could have went one of two directions, one being the way he went and the other being a pretty dark path, and been really angry, and that could have been all she wrote. But that dude, he's the real deal. He's the real deal.
It shows what happens when you walk hand in hand with the king. We know Jalen Hurts a devout believer. But so for this year, Jalen Hurts, we'll see what happens next year, but this year belongs to Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty cool, and I got to tell you, I'm jealous, because after all those years not knowing if you were going to get one, you guys are just, every year, man, you're relevant. You're there at the end.
Some of you younger cats, you don't understand how the 80s were with the Chiefs. And, the 90s were good under Marty Ball. It was just enough to always get your hopes up and then playoff disaster. Some fabulous Chiefs played during the 90s, man. In those years, Derek Thomas, the Neil Smiths, DeBerg playing quarterback with a bone sticking out of his finger. Deron Cherry, Stephon Page. You've just got Christian Okoye, Word, Anders.
Yeah.
The list goes on. Like one playoff win or something, it's ridiculous. So for Chiefs fans, man, this is a glorious time. Some of you younger guys, younger kids in high school, hey, Chiefs have always been good, right? No.
You don't, it is so uncommon to do it so close together. It's why you haven't had many franchises. The Cowboys and the Patriots each they lead as franchise with 6 titles. Tom Brady has 7. More than any other franchise.
3 decades.
Correct. And so it's so hard to win more than one, and for the Chiefs now to be there, two out of the last 3 years, to win 2 of the last 4 years, just unbelievable.
In a league where you can get good quick, the NFL, there's so much parity, and for them to do what they've done, it's unbelievable.
Look at the Rams, for instance. Super Bowl champions last year, didn't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, where are they?
Correct.
Exactly.
It's hard to win in this league. And
winning is the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing to do.
Even when you're playing a 1-14 team at home late in the year, it's hard to beat a team filled with the best college athletes that played at that time that are now at that level. Yeah. It's why games are so close now.
And if you're Kansas City, who are you sneaking up on?
Right.
Yes, I know a lot of people where they got the best players, the best tight end, the best. Yeah, and everybody knows that when they plan to play you.
That big
Every
old
coach
target.
gets paid to win games too.
The big old target.
You're getting everybody's best game, and in your rebuilding year this year, you lost 3.
And
won the Super Bowl in a rebuilding year.
You're right, too. That's every team that sees the Chiefs on their schedule. I'm a Bills fan. Like, the fact that we beat you guys in the regular season, that was like the biggest win for us this year. Like, to go to Arrowhead and to win that was huge. Like, it used to be the Patriots.
They get up for that game, man.
It's
they get up
when
for
you
it.
play Kansas City with that coach, that quarterback, that tight end, that fan base in this era, I mean, it's like the Patriots of old. You don't beat them often. So that target, and it's not going away. I anticipate the Chiefs
it just gets bigger and bigger.
Be right back there next year. I'm hoping it might be my Bills' time to shine, but we won't focus on that because right now,
hey, they got their time coming.
Kansas City Chiefs are world champions. Congrats, buddy.
Yeah,
pretty cool for the state of Missouri. And I got to say this too, economically speaking, for the state of Missouri, that is so big.
Oh,
that
huge.
is massive for the state of Missouri.
You know, Kansas City, I think, has kind of been on the upswing anyway with the Royals' success here in recent history and
Sporting
things like
Kansas
that.
City.
And just I mean, there's just things are getting better downtown. Everything's just getting more tech companies coming in and all kinds of things.
The most affordable big cities for young couples to relocate to.
Yeah.
And Kansas City is number 2 in America on that list.
It's on the rise, man.
As far as
it's a hidden gem.
Cultural, arts, diversity,
yes,
entertainment. You have sports teams. Yeah, KC's it. And you know what I love is Patty Mahomes has promised the state of Missouri, I'm never going anywhere. This is my town. I'm buying up everything there is to buy. Next, you're going to see some Patty Mahomes car lots pop up. As long as Rusty Drewing's okay with that.
Mayor Patty Mahomes will be coming, I guarantee you. I think, dude, he's the king of the city, man.
As long as he doesn't make any stupid statements like that jabroni in Cincinnati, right? Okay, as we move on, really excited about spending a little time this week. A lot of you know, graduated from Morgan County R2, Versailles. And this guy was my high school history teacher, believe it or not, longtime coach. He's got kids in the district. His wife actually used to cut my hair. His brother-in-law was one of my best friends. And so I'm coming from Versailles. You guys know I'm passionate, but no one knows more about the history and I would say really everything that's gone on in that school district. And so it's an exciting time right now for the district as a whole.
Yeah, right now the district's going through change. You know, admin, you know, our superintendent resigned, and I trust the school board will get a good person in there. You know, the one thing that, people always talk about things like that, but we got a great staff. We got great teachers, and they're the backbone of a school district anyway. Kids and teachers are the backbone of a school, and we're great. We got good kids. We got, good teachers. We're going to be fine no matter what the superintendent situation is. So I'm not worried about that. We got a board, do your job. Everything goes back to everybody do their job. Conference change, 4-day school week. We got a lot of changes coming, and, there's an excitement.
So let's talk about, so your superintendent resigns, and now from what I understand, there is a open search going on for the new superintendent.
Yeah, I think they pay some company to kind of put feelers out. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not at the highest pay grade, so I'm not at the least amount that need to know.
Right.
I learned through an email that everybody gets what's going on. But yeah, they put out I think a little search type deal, and you get candidates and you bring them in, and
I might be biased, but I would think that would be an attractive job. I mean, there's a lot of new going on. You talked about the new conference for Versailles, which we talked about.
Big change.
Jason Allison on, and we've seen a lot of stuff on social media. But for Versailles to make this move, it's a good move, especially for the kids. And we were talking last night. You said, would you see some of the teams we're going to be playing, and they're comparable to what we've got, and this is going to bring a new level of excitement for these kids. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and for the record, I'm an old school. I love the Tri-County Conference.
Yeah.
It's the greatest conference
in the world for high school athletics.
But I will tell you, times change and situations change. There was a time in the Tri-County when we had 2 or 3 factories in Versailles and things were rocking. Back in your day, we were over 530 students in the high school. We dropped down to 320 some just a couple of years ago. Pencil factory leaves, Gates, you never know.
It's like 40% drop.
Man, and when you are trying to compete with a school like such as Osage, who's building casinos, building sports convention centers, and every time I come down here, something new's been dug up because we're getting ready to build something. It gets hard. I think Eldon and Osage are over 200 more kids than us now in high school.
That's crazy to me.
You can either be proactive,
yeah,
or you can, be retroactive. And this is something I'm proud of our school, as much as I love the Tri-County, for being proactive on. And our kids are starting to get excited again about the future. And it's the Tri-County as it grows and starts to change, like I believe what I was told, Fulton accepted an invitation. So they will probably be coming into Tri-County. This is all kind of moving north.
It's no longer the Tri-County like it used to be.
The Tri-County that the old timers grew up in does not exist.
A lot of people don't know the Camden Lakers.
It's like I used to love the Big 8, but they let the Texas teams in the Big 12. It's changing now, all that shit. It's like, man, what used to be is not the case anymore.
Correct. Because even when you hear Tri-County and you see some of these schools that are in it, it's like, well, they're not in the Tri-County.
I mean,
They're
counties
not
we even
Camden,
got
Miller,
this,
Morgan.
Yeah, like
that is the
now.
Tri-County,
Exactly.
right, initially. And so it's interesting. And so the new conference that Versailles will be playing in, they're going to see a lot of schools like Buffalo, El Dorado Springs, schools that they're going to compete against.
Yes, and these are schools that we've already been competing against. Kyle Milton, our AD's done a good job of scheduling these schools in various sports to kind of get people kind of in tune with the idea of playing them. Yeah, you got El Dorado, Sherwood, Warsaw, Butler, and now us. And who knows, because, Clinton almost joined. I think down the road there's still a chance that's going to happen. So it's a relatively new conference. And, I was talking to Kyle Middleton yesterday, kind of getting his thoughts on a few things. And he's like, man, we're going to get to host a lot of events with our facilities. Yeah. That bring, people eat in your restaurants.
Yeah.
People spend money in your town. And that's what Versailles needs.
Absolutely.
Powerlifting meets. We're going to have conference powerlifting meets. He was talking to the ADs of this conference. They want to do anything and everything. It's a new conference with new ideas.
Can I ask real quick while you're talking about that? Who has taken over some of the conditioning and weight training with some of our boys in Versailles? I'm seeing these pictures posted. We no longer have high school boys. We have college jocks.
We've got some good-looking kids, man.
I mean, these guys are cut up.
Boys, girls, both. You can see that somebody found the weight room, and Coach Allen, Aaron Allen, has done a great job in our weight room. There's a lot of screaming and hollering. I'm talking positive. They're getting after it in there.
Yeah, that's great.
But we've got kids. They're filling out T-shirts. Hunter Chamberlain, 1,100-pound club. We haven't had one of those for a while. A bunch of kids just on
Isaac
Facebook.
Waller.
Yeah, Isaac Waller. You're seeing 1,000-pound kids, 1,100-pound kids. Wow. That's how you get better at things is in the weight room. And God bless Coach Allen because he's getting it done.
It's really cool to see because some people may not know if you're not familiar with Versailles. I mean, honestly, some of the best facilities. And, from our football field, the new baseball complex, the weight and coaches complex. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. And so there's a lot of good things. I want to talk about real quick. I saw, too, we had a girls' basketball game. Another level of excitement in Versailles is the rebuilding and the rejuvenation of the girls' basketball program this season.
Yes, I am extremely proud of our girls' team. If you're a Tiger fan, it's been lean years. What was it, against California just a few years ago? We were almost beat by 100.
Yeah.
And then last night I watched them play Blair Oaks, and we lost, but we are still learning how to win. We were as good as that team.
Yeah.
These girls have a winning record in mid-February, which has not happened. We have girls coming back out, and now with the new schedule for next year, you have kids excited to be on that team. It's one step at a time is how you fix this problem. And I feel like we're doing it. And those girls, man, I love watching them because they know every game they're the underdog. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting here at, 12 and 9 or something to 10. Yeah.
But they've won 12
fighting,
games, Jason.
They're scrapping.
When's the last time that program won 12 games?
06, 07, somewhere back in the Julie Teeple years.
I was going to say,
it's been a long time.
Back when Linda Scott was either coaching or right after that was a long time ago.
Nobody, if you said, would they get 12 or 13 wins to start this year? No.
Well, they had won, there's a couple of years they didn't win a game.
Exactly.
And so I'm impressed with that. And I got to tell you, some good things going on. Will you make sure that you come back and we could do this again as far as when we find a new superintendent and keep people updated? Okay, because I want to go to our next segment. And I wanted to stick to the Versailles theme. We talked last night, and I think that we were pretty much on the same page. You said that is a home run hit. So I'm going to let you take it over. This week's Central Ozarks Medical Center, hometown hero, longtime contributor with the District of Morgan County. Our two Versailles, go ahead and...
Sure. When you asked me about this, the one person there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Look, man, I can give you a list of great people doing great things. But when you mentioned this, a hometown hero, there's a guy who was a teacher of mine, a coach of mine, a mentor, whether he knew it or not, and a guy who has coached at a high level, affected kids at a high level, and still does, and that being Kent Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I'm a true Versailles boy. I bleed black and gold all the way to my bone marrow. And he's another one just like that. I rely on this man for a lot of information, a lot of the sports history people like. I shoot Kent text all the time. Kent gives me a lot of info, and I think he enjoys all this stuff too. But Kent Chamberlain to me, this is a guy, I was sitting there writing some stuff down. 22 years as a basketball coach, 11 as a head coach. He coached under John Hensley, which is a great coach for us. His time as a head coach, 174 and 101, one of the winningest coaches in Versailles history. 6 conference titles, 6 district titles, 3 sectional titles, a Final Four in 2005 where we finished 3rd. And, you know, man, we were on the doorstep of that one. We could have won that whole thing that year. He also coached golf. I cannot remember how many years exactly, but, 10 conference, or let's see, it was 4 conference titles in golf, 7 more district titles, 3 top 4 finishes in our school's only state championship in 1994.
Champions, baby.
In
94,
golf.
that's signed proudly outside Rolling Hills.
You know, here's a man, 10 conference titles, 13 district, and 4 top 4 finishes in both sports combined. You know, you cannot talk about Versailles sports without Kent Chamberlain. And the guy could coach, he'd get the best out of a kid. And then he kind of goes off into admin. He gets out of the I'm done with the coaching
Which he
thing.
made a difference in my life, an admin role, after he's done coaching. Because he was my assistant principal, and I hate to tell you, you knew this, because you might have sent me there a time or two, but I spent a lot of time in that office.
Yeah, you probably got to know.
But he
quite a
was
bit.
great, and he knew how to deal with every different type of kid, how to mentor
Exactly.
him. And you said he's not done making a difference.
No, and the thing about Kent is, being the head of MCAC, Kent has always jumped in and coached football for us. He did 2 basketball teams this year, had them both in the championship. And when you watch him coach, he coaches my son the same way he did Nathan Frazier, hard.
Who's an all-state player from 05.
Yes, yeah. He has not lost anything. I think Kent's up in his 60s now, but he loves it. And he still gives back to his community, whatever it takes to help Versailles. Kent is a true community guy. Now, there's a bunch of others, man. I could go on and on.
Right.
But Kent Chamberlain is just one who, through the test of time, man, he is a tiger to the core, and whatever it takes to help Versailles, he's always been there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, too. When you're in administration and you've got deep roots and ties in a district, there's changes and people that come along that don't always have the district's best interest in mind, but he does a great job of really just keeping his nose to the grind and not causing a fuss, because he's the kind of guy in a district who could beat his chest and throw his weight around because he's done it all. He doesn't do that.
Sure. I remember when he became principal. I think we had some shuffling when Jeff Carter unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
And admin shuffled. And, Kent never came in and said, I'm the boss. Kent was like a coach. We're a team. And I don't go anywhere if we don't go anywhere. And that's how he always approached every observation in my room, every conversation as a principal to a teacher. The guy just is Versailles. What do we need to do our best? And that's what we did. And he still continues to do this. He still continues to be a big part of my sports history stuff.
Yeah.
And you said he doesn't coach. What's that? No, you're go ahead.
You said he doesn't coach these kids like you said, Nate Frazier. Said you go in there and he is taking this as serious as anything he's ever done.
Oh, the parents love it. The young parents love it. And in fact, I think it was one of the Campbell girls over at Eldon. I saw her in the bleachers, and she goes, he's the same way. I love these kids getting coached like this. I'm like, this new school world sometimes needs a little taste of old school. And, one of my favorite things is in practice, he tells all the boys, I'm watching them do inbounds plays. He goes, you seen the varsity with all those threes, right? You see all what they're doing? Well, we're not going to do that.
That's hilarious.
You go inside, then the threes come from the outside. And I'm like, I like this, man.
That's awesome.
I'm glad my kids get the opportunity, and all our kids get a chance to experience Coach Chamberlain.
Man, and he's made a difference in your life.
Oh, yeah.
You've passed that on to so many people.
My son even told him, my 7th grade son, he goes, I learned more basketball in 30 minutes from him when I was playing for him than I did. And that's no knock on anybody else.
Right,
It's just Kent is the man. You know how fortunate we are to have a man of that caliber coaching our youth teams?
And that's why, full circle, he's this week's Central Ozarks Medical Center hometown hero. Real quick, about to wrap up, but also got to talk about Versailles basketball boys under first-year head coach Josh Walters, really doing well as well. So good time to be a Tiger.
Kent Chamberlain, I guarantee you, put a big old fingerprint on Josh because he played for him and he was on that Final Four team, and I know Coach Walters feels the same way. So just throwing that in there. So
it's awesome to see the different people he's impacting and what they're doing now.
Yeah.
So Mr. Chamberlain, Coach Chamberlain, thank you, sir, and congratulations on this week's honor. Real quick before we wrap up, lots of cool stuff happening. This weekend is Polar Plunge. Make sure you donate to our guy, JT Girl, KS95. Forget about Zach Paul. He doesn't stand a chance. They raised $15K at that pulled pork event at the sheriff's office.
Mercy, I didn't hear
that.
that.
Is crazy. Also, don't forget all kinds of awesome stuff on Lake TV. We've got Camdenton's brand new football coach, Par Pitts, on with Uncle Chris this week. We've also got our last 2 basketball games next week. As for Jason, man, thanks for filling in this week. Come back and do this
my
again,
pleasure,
will you?
William. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
We'll do this again. I look forward to it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you on next week.